Konnichiwa minasan, and welcome back to my channel. I am Reina Scully coming to you from Japan, and this video is brought to you by Rosetta Stone. As the title suggests, this is your ultimate guide to the Japanese alphabet. I'm going to teach you every single hiragana there is to know so you can fast track your way onto learning Japanese. So let's talk a little bit about hiragana first. Technically, our alphabet is more like a phonetic lettering system or a syllabic script. Hiragana actually does mean simple, as it is the most base form of our lettering system you should learn before moving on to more complicated ways of reading and writing like kanji. Hiragana is not only an important component of your reading and writing comprehension, it is the key to perfecting pronunciation. The moment you have a strong command of how each letter or kana in hiragana is separated, it will immediately accelerate your ability to speak Japanese smoothly. Sidebar, katakana is just as important to learn. However, I personally believe it is significantly easier to learn that after you master hiragana. I like to think of katakana as the italics or the cursive version of hiragana. In English, you'd first learn the alphabet and then you learn how to write it in cursive. I suggest taking that same route in learning hiragana first and then katakana after. Before we move on, if you're serious about learning Japanese and want a convenient way to study right from your phone, I highly recommend Rosetta Stone. The app is intuitive and keeps you on track while cleverly building on previous lessons, so you'll improve your grasp of Japanese at a much faster rate. It also has auditory components from the very beginning, so you'll be acclimated to hearing Japanese, which is highly effective for learning proper pronunciation and stress and pitch accents, which are particularly important in Japanese. So if you're interested in Rosetta Stone, be sure to click the link in my description below. They have a great discount on all their subscriptions. Plus, you can unlock unlimited access for $1.99, which allows you to learn as many languages as you want on one account. And once you buy Rosetta Stone, you have it for life. Now let's first get some technical terms out of the way. Our alphabet or phonetic lettering system is called gojuon, which literally means 50 sounds. This comes from the 5x10 grid or table that displays each kana. In modern Japanese, there are 5 gaps missing in the table along with one extra one, so there are technically only 46 kana in the base table. However, we also have Dakuten, Handakuten, and Stegana, which add 35 more kana to hiragana. So today we are going to go over all 81 kana in our lettering system. So here's the 5x10 grid, and as mentioned before, our alphabet is phonetic. So whenever it is romanized, you simply pronounce it exactly the way it is written. There are, of course, a few exceptions to that rule, but this is generally a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. The order goes from top to bottom and right to left, and since they all rhyme and are sort of sing-songy, they're actually quite easy to memorize. So here are all the vowels lined up on the rightmost column and the corresponding English consonants at the top row. This way you can see that all the hiragana are pronounced by combining the top consonant row with the right vowel column. This is what I mean by our kana system is phonetic. Each kana represents a sound, i.e. a combination of a consonant and a vowel. Let's vocally go over it so you can get a feel for what it's supposed to sound like. A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, na, ni, nu, ne, no, ha, hi, hu, he, ho, ma, mi, mu, me, mo, ya, yu, yo, da, ri, ru, re, ro, wa, wo, n. Easy enough, but if you look and listen closely, there are already a few kana that don't fully follow the romanized consonant rules. For example, the T row, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, the second kana sounds like chi instead of ti, which would be ti. That's simply because the phonetic sound of ti does not exist in Japanese, so it simply defaults to chi. And then we have the fu from the H row, ha, hi, hu, he, ho. You'd think it would be hu as in HU, but again, that sound doesn't exist in Japanese. And to us, the hu and fu sound vocally identical, so we go with fu. And here's one huge important rule in kana that has no exceptions whatsoever. No Japanese word starts with the kana It always has to come after a different kana. Then we have 3 kana that are pronounced differently depending on very specific contexts. Ha can be pronounced wa, he can be pronounced e, and wo is pronounced o. The kana ha is what is used to spell the Japanese phrase konnichiwa, which means hello. And although it sounds like it ends with wa, it is actually written as ha and just pronounced as wa. And the same actually applies to konbanwa, which is good evening. Same thing, the wa is actually a ha, but it's pronounced wa. He is used when addressing someone in written form. So for example, minasan e is written with a he, but it's pronounced e. Minasan e. And finally, wo is generally pronounced o, but there is no steadfast or classical rule. It's simply because when it is spoken, it sounds a little bit slurred, so it just becomes o. 写真を撮ってください technically is written out as 写真を撮ってください, but as you just heard in speech, it just sounds like お写真を撮ってください A good way to practice your phonetic understanding of hiragana would be to try to spell out words in hiragana based on your hearing. So let's say you know the phrase ohayo, which means good morning. You can look at the hiragana chart and find all the corresponding kanas o, ha, yo, and now you can write and recognize ohayo in hiragana. Next, let's go over dakuten, which help create the other consonant-vowel combination sounds that exist in Japanese, which are G, Z, D, and B sounds. These are made simply by adding dakuten or tiny little double dashes to the top right of the hiragana columns of K, S, T, and H. Dakuten are also referred to as tenten, which literally just means dot dot. So, kakikukeko turns into gagigugeko. Sashisuseso turns into zajizuzezo. Tachitsuteto turns into dajizudedo. Hahifuheho turns into babibubebo. Just like the chi and fu examples from before, the Z-I-Z sound simply doesn't exist in Japanese, so it simply just becomes ji. Now, the ji and z sounds are practically and pretty much exactly the same as the ji and z sounds. However, there are some specific words that actually require this semi-obsolete kana spelling instead. For example, nosebleed in Japanese is hanaji, and it requires the chi with the dakuten. So now that you know the dakuten columns, you can practice hiragana by finding more words on the grid, like tomodachi, which means friend, tomodachi, or daigaku, which means college or university, daigaku. Now that we have an understanding of dakuten, let's go over handakuten, which is represented by a tiny circle that goes on the top right of only the H column. With the handakuten, the H sound becomes a P sound, so now this row is papi pu pe po. Luckily, there's only one column of handakuten, and it is straightforward. One thing to note, most words that start with a handakuten aren't originally Japanese words. A lot of them are loan words that come from either English or other foreign languages that got forced into Japanese usage, or they're onomatopoeias. So an example would be pang for bread, or pika pika, which is the onomatopoeia for something that's flashing or sparkling. And finally, we have stegana, which are literally miniature versions of the hiragana we already know. A, I, U, E, O, tsu, ya, yu, yo, and wa. All stegana must be combined with another hiragana to make a sound or to make any sense at all, and they cannot stand alone as their own phoneme. And the most common stegana are ya, yu, yo, and tsu. The small ya, yu, and yo are needed to morph the ending vowel of the hiragana into a gliding sound. For example, the word kyatatsu is made by combining the ki with a small ya to create the kya sound and then adding tatsu, kyatatsu, which means stepladder. The word kyuke is made by combining the ki and a small yu to make the sound kyu. So you have kyukei, which means to take a rest or to take a break. The word kyo is made by combining ki with a small yo to make the kyo sound, and then you just add u, kyo, which means today. The small ya, yu, yo can be combined with the following hiragana to help create the gliding sound that's necessary in a lot of our words. Ki, shi, chi, ni, hi, mi, ri, gi, ji, bi, pi. The other common and necessary stegana to learn is the small tsu, which is needed to help create a staccato sound between two consonants. So let's take, for example, the two words tokuni and tokuni. Tokuni means particularly, and tokuni means something that has already happened, two completely separate words. But tokuni is written just tokuni, but tokuni just has a small tsu between the to and the ku, creating an entirely different word based on the double consonant staccato sound that the small tsu creates. Another set of examples would be the word kata versus katta. Kata means shoulder, and katta means you won in the past tense, two words that have nothing to do with each other, but the only thing that's really separating them is the small tsu, which helps to create the staccato sound between ka and ta. Kata versus katta. Sadly, unlike ya, yu, yo, there isn't an exhaustive list of hiragana that works with tsu. You can actually combine tsu with pretty much every hiragana out there to help make that staccato sound, except for I know that was just a lot of information, but once you have the basic hiragana grid down, you will have such a strong understanding of how our kana gets combined to create words, and your understanding of Japanese will grow exponentially. I recommend studying the first half of this video first before moving on to learning stegana, mainly because although stegana are imperative to learning Japanese, they will come naturally once you have a full, strong grasp of the basic goju-on grid. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you a strong foundation for understanding how our lettering system works, i.e. hiragana. I know that was really daunting, but I guarantee you are already one step closer to fully learning Japanese. If you happen to already know hiragana, let me know in the comments below how you went about studying it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and remember to click the link in my description below to get a great discount on Rosetta Stone so you can get a jump start on learning Japanese or any other language. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Sonde matta ne!